Okay, welcome back, guys. Welcome back to our channel. We have our guest here. It's Lukas, yeah, from what is it called again? Global Bitcoin Fest, right?
Yes, Global Bitcoin Fest. I'm not really an official representative. I'm just part of the organizing group. Yes, Global Bitcoin Fest is a um, organically organized event that we threw together in a week on 7th of September, a 24-hour non-stop Twitter space um, with focusing on different countries. We did 24 separate sessions, 1-hour sessions, non-stop throughout the day when Bitcoin became legal tender in El Salvador, to celebrate the adoption of Bitcoin. And yeah, it was a bunch of people that just from all over the world that just did it spontaneously. There was a guy that had this idea, Ricky, in a Twitter group chat that we had to give away free sats in Latin America. And then I think we all thought it was a bad idea at first to do a 24-hour nonstop space, but then people just started piling in, and then more and more people started thinking, yeah, let's do a session. So we ended up having people from um yeah, Polynesia, Australia, Vietnam, Japan, Hong Kong, Greece, Nigeria, Sudan, Ethiopia, Sweden, Venezuela, Cuba, El Salvador, Argentina, Mexico, Canada, US. We did sessions for a specific focus in each country, and that panned out really well because there's a lot of content about Bitcoin from different aspects, but there's not a lot of focus learning about specific communities. So what we're passionate about, I think that the organizer group is really interested in is listening to specific communities in specific countries talk about what they're doing. Yeah, that's the thing. Basically, it's very simple. Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
completely we actually even decided when we did the event, because we did all the planning publicly. We did held Twitter Spaces planning. Anybody could listen in when we were planning. So we decided one thing that we said was no public sponsorships. Yeah, so we're not going to put any sponsors or anything because it's completely non-profit. It's very just to celebrate Bitcoin by Bitcoiners for Bitcoiners, and yeah, that's how we did it. And
Yeah.
now we've decided we're gonna try to do weekly, twice a week. Let's hope that works out with specific communities focusing. Hopefully Indonesia soon in
Yes,
person.
yeah, because you already reach out one of those plebs in Indonesia, and I think yeah, it's about time, maybe in January 3rd, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
you
see,
introduced me to the
yeah,
people, so thanks
yeah.
for that.
Yeah, we stay tuned, yeah, guys. I think we will share you the link description if you wanna check the space out. We can you can join to the room, and this gonna be interesting. And then yeah, that's about it, yeah, guys. I think the global Bitcoin Fest is focused on the community. Is that what you're saying?
Excuse me?
Is that what you're saying? I mean, like the global Bitcoin Fest, that's the community that you created is just focused on our community. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, we're just focusing on local communities. Yes. We it's not like, we need to talk to big influencers. We just want to hear from people that are active on the ground, that are uh, organizing events, or that are orange pilling companies, or that are running local Bitcoin businesses, any form of business that people are doing. Just, I mean, who's doing what in your specific country? that's what we are curious to hear about. Yep.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I mean, it's initiated by yourself or someone else who like try to like bring you into the project or what?
Yeah, so it started actually when Nayib Bukele announced that he was going to, or that El Salvador was going to pass Bitcoin as legal tender, pass a law with Bitcoin as legal tender. There was, I think, 23,000 people in this Twitter space that just grew organically, and they passed the law at the end of that Twitter space. It was a 1 hour space, and Nayib Bukele, the president of El Salvador, was talking about why they were going to do it. And at the end of that talk, Nayib jumped out and said, I have to be respectful here because they're going to pass the law in parliament now. He jumped out, but his brother was in parliament recording, and we could hear the applause. And that was a very inspiring moment in Bitcoin history. For me, it felt like, you know, the moon landing moment for Bitcoin. And we after that, I was curious to hear about El Salvador and El Salvadorian Bitcoiners and Bitcoin. So I organized a space together with a guy called Soldado Digital, and my Spanish is quite weak because I lived in Venezuela like 20 years ago for a year. I haven't spoke much Spanish except with cab drivers sometimes. That's pretty much my Spanish practice for the past 20 years. And it was extremely political. They were debating a lot about, the Bitcoin law had become this kind of thing where the opposition in El Salvador just wanted to go against Bitcoin because it was Nayib Bukele's project. And I just felt I couldn't handle that complexity of discussion, the political conversation. So the idea that we had spontaneously at the end of that talk was, hey, let's do Twitter Spaces where we give away free Satoshis to people. Then we can keep it technical, or we can keep it about Bitcoin and neutral. And we do it in Spanish for El Salvadorians or people around in Central America or South America. And so we did for El Salvador twice. We gave away Bitcoin with Lightning. And then we did Mexico together with Julio. We did El Salvador together with Darwin, Soldado Digital, and a few others. Then we did Mexico. We did Cuba with Erish. Then we did Venezuela with Crypto Bastardo. And more and more people were interested in participating. So we became a small chat group, people that just organically wanted to participate. And there was one guy there called Ricky that proposed this, hey, let's do 24-hour space. People were a bit hesitant to do that. And this was, I think, like the last of August or the 1st of September. And then at the end of that day, Vietnam time, because I'm in Vietnam now, end of that day, people start piling in, and we just started rolling the ball and started organizing this event. And I mean, from scratch, we built, we connected with a lot of speakers for the first time. So we built the schedule, 24 hours, 1 hour time slots. Also, just the concept, it wasn't clear in the beginning exactly how we were going to do it. So the organizing group also debated the concept, how we were going to do that. We did it organically in the chat group, but then we did daily or semi-daily spaces where we discussed in public, like, do we have sponsors? Do we not have sponsors? And then Humble made a video promoting it. We had Cesar, El Salvadoran Bitcoiner, that made the designs. We had Julio was doing some designs. I was kind of trying to get together the schedule. Others were helping with the schedule. So basically it was just all coming together in this very crazy 1 week. that culminated in this 24-hour nonstop space. So I was definitely not the founder. The group was founders. The idea came from Ricky, but I think we all kind of took ownership of this together.
Yes.
Even though I was one out of two main hosts that was actually committed to do 24-hour nonstop space. So me and Darwin in El Salvador did this together. The idea was that Darwin would broadcast from El Salvador nonstop, and he had a little bit too bad connection, so we decided to alternate, and it ended up that I ran it after about half, and yeah, that was pretty much how the event happened. And then we also recorded it, and we did post-production with another guy, Dax Sosa, and yeah, it's available to listen to all the 23 recordings. One recording failed, unfortunately, so we only have 23 out of 24, but pretty good. Yeah.
Yes, it's okay. I mean, like, yeah, there's the aha moment. I mean, like, since the El Salvador make Bitcoin legal tender, is that what you're saying? Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much what kicked it off. There was already a bunch of people hanging out, talking in Twitter Spaces about Bitcoin. So that was kind of, there was already a platform. Then came the initiative to kind of dig into local communities more via this giving away free Satoshis. And then the last thing that we needed was this crazy 24-hour idea, and then everybody got excited.
Yes, exactly. I mean, like, it's quite unique, you know. It's literally 24 hours. I mean, like, 24-hour spaces is quite long. Right? I mean, for like Bitcoiner, yeah, maybe for some countries with time differences, it makes sense. But for 24 hours for long, I think, yeah. What do you think? I mean, like, is it possible? You had that experience before, or what?
No, I never had that experience before. I've done things before where I've just stayed up 48 hours because I had an essay that I had to submit, or an exam. So I'm kind of used to doing very long, or I started a company before that where I was working, an average 80 hours a week for 7 years. So I'm kind of used to the long hours. I wasn't that worried about that, but listening for 24 hours and moderating, you need to listen very intently and try to moderate these people. When things happen, you have to bring in new speakers, offboard the old speakers. It was quite mentally exhausting. I think the difficult ones were because we did bilingual, by the way. We didn't only do English, we did Spanish and English. So some sessions were in Spanish, some sessions were in English. And, when you're really tired, to try to understand, a fast-speaking Cuban guy, quite challenging. But I was quite happy listening to the recordings afterwards, realizing that I didn't make too much of a fool of myself trying to moderate those spaces when I was really tired. Yeah, so it worked. I would probably recommend having more hosts. Yeah, and the difficulty that we had was that we actually didn't have a Global Bitcoin Fest Twitter account even when we started. Yes, we created that as we went, and then Humble did a great job getting Twitter to approve the Twitter Spaces for our account fast track, but only like as we were like 2/3 or 3/4 into the event already. So yeah.
Yeah, that's I mean, like, the community itself is growing and bigger, and I think, yeah, it's over time when, yeah, you try to like reach out to the country, and later on you will get in Indonesia to the discussion as well. I think the community of the global Bitcoin Fest is getting bigger and bigger. Yeah, that's I think it's gonna. Yeah,
Well,
I mean,
it's just starting, but I think the interesting idea that I feel all of us share an excitement around is that what we discovered was actually that we didn't have much time to pre-approve the speakers. We kind of had to like make it fast and quick, quick and dirty, just like get the people in as the panelists for their local community. And you know, for example, unfortunately, we only have the half the recording for the Nigerian space. But seriously, I was like, okay, Nigeria, it's on everybody's lips. What's happening with Bitcoin in Nigeria? Everybody wanted to know. And I just happened to see a guy on Twitter tweeting about Nigeria. And I pinged him, Paran, and Bernard Para, and he replied. He hardly had time to speak to me. I didn't know why. I didn't know who he was really. But then when they did their space, it was on fire. I mean, the guys just absolutely killed it. He happened to be the CEO of BitNote, which is like one of the, I think, the #1 Bitcoin companies in Nigeria. And we had a lot of these just amazing speakers, like Koji from Japan, that spelled out how PlebNet in Japan works, diamond hands, and how gaming can be enabled with Lightning payments. There's so many great speakers. One favorite was the Polynesian space, where Lord Fusitua brought in Justin, who's an ex-criminal, ex-convict, that pretty much feels that his life has completely changed with Bitcoin. Bitcoin gave him hope and gave him purpose to have more low time preference and plan, you know, for the long term. So now he's a Bitcoin educator. He's bringing on people. I mean, he's still, I think he's shitcoining quite a lot, but I mean, people are doing it at whatever kind of phase they're at in like Bitcoin maximalization. I think most people eventually end up in becoming Bitcoin maximalists.
yes.
But I think even though some people weren't like fully Bitcoin maximalists that were holding these spaces, everybody was super respectful that this was a Bitcoin event, and it was just awesome Bitcoin content. I've listened to it all after when we were editing it, and I was just surprised how good information we could get from these local communities. And I think we're all kind of surprised by that. So yeah, we look forward to interviewing every community going forward. 100, how many countries are there in the world? 192? Yeah, so we can go about every country.
Something like that, yeah. Yeah, I think, yeah, that's pretty cool. I mean, you need to have direct access to the community, and then exchange information, and then makes Bitcoin great. And yeah, that's why it's yeah, you're right. Gradually but suddenly, Bitcoin will be the one, because yeah, our shitcoin is just pumping and dumping, and then yeah, they will run. That's why I also, yeah, I try to like collab with the shitcoiner as well. Try to like tell him about Bitcoin, and whether he is being converted to Bitcoiner or not is paroded, is up to them. But at least we try to like tell the truth, right? And then yeah, well, one day when they will realize the power of Bitcoin.
Yeah, I think we've all been there.
Yeah, we are good.
I fell for unit bias the first time I heard about Bitcoin. I immediately in 2013 went and bought shitcoins instead of Bitcoin, and I did that a few times before I landed in Bitcoin. So, and Bitcoin is just a technology. Yes, it really is just a technology. So all the politics and all that stuff around it is really just noise. I mean, people fighting, oh, you have to be this way or that way to be a true Bitcoiner. Well, look, it's a technology. Nobody says that you have to be this or that way to use internet. No, everybody uses internet. Everybody will use Bitcoin. Yeah. But then there is a component of freedom in Bitcoin. I mean, there is,
Yes.
I do find that it's very hard to reconcile the idea of, I don't want to, dive into politics too much, but like basically the idea of forcing people to inject something into their bodies, like the forced
Yeah,
vaccination
I know.
mandates.
Yeah.
That's like the limit of you're passing a limit of human freedom that is very, very dangerous. I mean, historically, that it's just an idea that's unacceptable. It's kind of in line with like slavery, being pro-slavery, owning other people's bodies. I think that's kind of hard to reconcile with being a Bitcoiner. Yeah. But otherwise, I mean, you can have any opinions and be whatever you want. Yes, because it's just about a technology to empower humans to do what they want with their lives. That's it.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I mean, there's pros and cons always, of course, but I think Bitcoin is natural, and whether people or not, they just take it as a political power or whatnot. Yeah, I understand your point of view. I mean, since you mentioned your background history in Bitcoin, I mean, could you please let me know, tell me about your history dive down to the rabbit hole for the first time? I mean, like you said before, since 2013, right?
Yeah, so my history with Bitcoin, that's your question, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so I started a tech company 2010 called Scribe, and to sign documents electronically. And very early on in the first years, because electronic signing in Sweden, I'm from Sweden, back then was very unknown and kind of controversial topic. So whenever I talked to somebody, I had to explain a lot about the legal aspects. So I concluded early that I needed to create a product that had, so when you sign a contract, you got a ready contract in a digital form that was very high quality and it's independent of any third party. So with that in mind, I was introduced to a guy in Estonia, Mike Gold, and that's the CEO of Guard Time, and he told me about his blockchain company that was using blockchain to create immutable records. So we decided to actually record the hash of every contract that was signed via our system on their blockchain. It turned out that we were actually the first customer. After that, they got Lockheed, US Department of Defense, Ericsson. They only had like mega customers after that, but we were the first one. So actually, I found blockchain technology before I found Bitcoin. I didn't know about Bitcoin at that point. We integrated it, and I was trying to solve a similar problem actually. So the having contract provability independent of people, because people are fallible. Yes. So I wanted a way for the person holding a contract to be able to prove it independently. And I thought maybe this solution would work. So I think we were one of the first actually industrial companies using blockchain in an industrial setting that everybody's hyping about today. Yes.
Yeah.
And we never hyped this. We talked to our customers to explain how the solution worked. But today it's like tens of millions of contracts are being stamped on this blockchain solution that we used. And only in 2013, I encountered Bitcoin, and I actually didn't connect even then Bitcoin to what we had implemented in Scribe. So I fell for unit bias immediately. I thought, oh, Bitcoin, it seems expensive. So I bought Litecoin and via like virtual world site, because I didn't want to do KYC. I wanted to buy it instantly. So I managed to buy it. And then I transferred it to EBTC, an exchange. And then I bought Feathercoin, which was even cheaper. So my unit bias was very extreme. Feathercoin doesn't exist today. I think I bought a few million of Dogecoin. I'm not sure, but I have a vague memory of also buying Dogecoin back then. But I think I sold it back into Feathercoin. But then, and then I forgot. I mined some Litecoin as well on my computer. I thought I would do that, and then I forgot about it for 4 years because I was so busy with my company. And I actually decided to DCA, but I never did it. And in 2017, I got kicked out of my company. And I think it's the first time I actually say it publicly. Yeah. And then I started looking into Bitcoin again, and I bought a bunch, but then happened the block size wars. Roger Ver and all these people in the large block camp, I mean, they were very persuasive, but at the same time, I wasn't sure what is it the old Bitcoin? Is it Bitcoin Cash? I'm like, oh my God. And the information available back then, it was not a lot. So I got completely tilted. My plan was to hold at least 50% Bitcoin. Yes, that was the safe asset. But I ended up shitcoining completely, going all in on shitcoins. And I mean, it was a shit show because back then when you deposited to exchanges, it was so hysterical. I had to wait 2 months, no reply at all from my exchange. My money was basically just gone. And then finally I managed to buy at the peak. I mean, almost literally at the peak. And then everything started crashing. And I mean, I bought before that, but I bought more at the peak, and everything started crashing. I went all in on shit coins, and then I just lost 98% of everything. I didn't want to think about it again. Just went on with my life. And then I managed to sell my shares in Scribe in February 2020. Bought a little bit back and then sold, and then they sold the company in May 2020. And as you know, in March 2020, there was the market meltdown, and I'm sitting with a pile of cash from that exit, and I'm like, what do I do now? Now I have to figure this out faster. And I mean, you can't just put money into anything. You really need to understand what you're going to do. And I don't tend to trust other people with decisions. I want to understand myself. So I didn't want to let some money manager take care of the money either. Yes, I wanted to understand myself. So I looked at stocks. Stocks looked expensive. In hindsight, they weren't, but it looked expensive. It looked like it could be a double crash coming. Bonds looked expensive. I mean, you could get like 3%, 4% for a high yield bond. I was like, why? I mean, high risk bond, why do I get so little? It doesn't make sense. Seems like the prices are high. I think I looked at Evergrande back then. They were giving like 8%. I was like, okay, but like, what is the risk in the real estate sector in China? It seems high. I looked at gold. I mean, people in gold look very depressive. It looks like they've been in a party for decades, and the party host just wants to make the party bad. Everybody's talking about how everybody's manipulating the price. Why would I want to be in a party where the host is trying to make the party bad? And so on. So I just looked at everything. I've been looking at real estate in Asia for the past 3 years then, and everything looked high as well. And I'm like, no, can't find anything. So Bitcoin eventually came back with more and more force. And after Saylor made his big investment in September or August 2020, I really started like looking more and more into it. Actually, the price didn't move at all after he invested for like months. Yes, I wasn't sure what it would mean. but then I started piling in quite heavily, and now I'm, I think, like 70% in Bitcoin. I have a small portion set aside for my next tech company, but really, my perspective, the reason why I ended up with so much in Bitcoin was because I find it to be the only safe asset where I, as an entrepreneur, don't have to spend all my time speculating on other assets. I can put my money there as a savings account, where I don't have to think about it. I know it's going to outperform inflation, which is my benchmark. That's the only thing I need. Yes, I will make money with my companies. I don't need to like do that in Bitcoin. And then I can focus on building companies instead. Yes, I can be productive. That's what I want. I was even considering, as an experienced tech entrepreneur, I was considering to invest in startups and work with startups, and but that's a lot of work and it's very high risk, and you can't allocate too much in every startup. So I just realized I'm going to be running my own VC fund, but I want to build my own companies.
Yes.
So that was also a no-go for me. So that's my history of Bitcoin. Maybe it was a bit long, but
It's okay. Yeah, because it's your story, right? I mean, like when you said that you get into Bitcoin journey since Bitcoin from a long time, right? I mean, Karaoke, but you actually got into the space and then down to the rabbit hole since last year. Is that you say?
I'm not an OG. I'm definitely not an OG. I'm a
Sorry.
baby.
Yeah.
Because I was a complete shitcoiner and completely clueless before. It's only once I got the money that I needed to allocate where I had to think hard enough to make enough research to actually understand it. And I think Twitter Spaces was hugely helpful to me. I was already fairly Bitcoin maximalist when I started hanging out in Twitter Spaces, but after hanging out with these super brilliant people, just listening to them all day, I mean, I'm so convinced there is no other solution.
Yes.
Nothing beats it.
Yeah, there is no alternative to Bitcoin. Yeah, that's point out what your
Yeah. And sorry, just to reference the start of my story, like blockchain is not the same as Bitcoin. Yes.
exactly.
The invention of Bitcoin is a set of technologies implemented in a certain way, and it's then a network effect on top of that, and the full decentralization that Bitcoin has that nothing else has. Actually, if it would be possible today, I would probably, because I was always a bit concerned about putting the hash of the contracts in that company blockchain. Yes. Instead, today I would consider using a durable solution and stamp it on somehow on Bitcoin or a side chain or something like that.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it's because one of the things that people, maybe or shitcoiner that try to pitch blockchain, because the work in the blockchain itself, there is no blockchain in the white paper, it's only time chain. No, yeah, but the other shitcoiners try to pitch that way, and yeah, that's pretty much the blockchain idea came up. Yeah, that's exactly. I mean, since you mentioned like you start your own company, I mean, something like that, is you doing it like Michael Saylor or what? I mean, Michael Saylor have like Bitcoin position as a reserve to the company, right? I mean, it's kind of risky. At the same time, is the only solution. I mean, like when you have reserve in the company, is kind of insurance, like, but you need to do that in the long term. Is that your position right now, or what?
Well, I have a holding company where I hold a major portion of my Bitcoin, but I do have an operation company where I've been doing my consulting, and now I'm paying my developers building my next company. And I do have a exchange account and I have bought Bitcoin as part of the balance sheet, and I'm actually paying some of the developers in Bitcoin. I'm doing it, but it's on a very small scale. I would say it's insignificant. I'm doing it for fun, testing it out.
Yes.
I hope to charge the customers in Bitcoin. So I'm going to give significant rebates if the customers want to pay in Bitcoin. And I hope to also integrate Lightning into the solution that I'm building. So I hope to do a little bit more than just hold Bitcoin on the balance sheet with my company. But there's a difference. I have a holding company for my assets, and I have an operations company for my business. And then I invest some of the money from my holdings company into my operations company. Yeah.
Yes. I mean, like it's hedged against inflation, and then maybe if I don't know if your company is public or not, the shareholder will be like happy if you have your company hedged against inflation, right? And then they try to invest, not get exposure to the Bitcoin first, but rather to your company.
Yeah. So my company is not. It's not even public what I'm building.
Yeah. Sorry.
I'm building a email client for better email, but the company is actually the umbrella for my company is actually Zion Labs, and the idea is to create a good place for creative people to build great stuff. And I don't want to have investors, because investors tend to have a shorter time horizon. They want to make quick returns.
Yes.
And I don't want to raise a lot of money quickly and build quickly and have a lot of annoying people annoy me about bullshit ideas or questions. I think I learned a lot about how to build good products in my previous company. And a lot of it is about having a continuous learning process. So if you throw more money on the problem, you don't necessarily learn more faster. You just make more stupid mistake. You just waste money in non-productive ways, non-learning ways. And on top of that, you have way more stress. So at this point, I'm able to self-finance. And I think I can do it for the next few years at least. And I think at that point, I'm going to have revenue, and it's going to be a self-funded, cash flow positive company. So I think it is a lower time preference. It takes longer time to build. It's slower, but eventually you have full control of your future and of what you're building. And I really learned that the hard way in my previous company. I raised money 9 times from over 50 investors. Eventually, there were so many voices. People started fighting over different things. People were trying to take power, and I think I spent at least 50% of my time with shareholder conflicts for the last 2 years. I managed to still build the company 100% growth a year, despite all the mess. But I mean, imagine if I could have used all that energy to build a great company instead. And I think a lot of the VC funded companies are in that kind of situation. There's a lot of bullshit going on the inside. People don't realize it. And actually, in the end, they're like, this rocket, and then they just crash.
Yes.
And in the end, the turtle is, the rabbit and the turtle analogy. Yes, the turtle eventually wins. So sometimes it's much better to build slow. And I think Bitcoin has really, I was already on that path, but it's helped me solidify my conviction in low time preference, just patience, build slow.
Yes, exactly. I mean, like even though like compared to the traditional finance like S&P or Dow Jones, It's still quite fast, but people still find it, Bitcoin is slow, the movement, the price discovery is not, is quite slow. But I think it depends, right? What do you compare to, right? I mean, Bitcoin is quite fast actually over the last 10 years, right?
Yeah, Bitcoin is boring to scammers and cantillionaires that are
Yeah.
used to scam people or to have a preferential treatment and be first. Somebody comes and tells them, please, please, let's do this together. I'll give you much better terms. And that's really what's happening in all the shit coins, and as Knut Svanholm calls them, kleptocurrencies and cryptocurrencies. Yeah, like a lot of people aren't aware that when they do these ICOs, the investors get like a 82%, 82.5% rebate, yes,
Yeah.
on like the listing price, and then they dump immediately when it goes goes live on an exchange, and then they made their money back, and everybody else is suckers. So yeah, it's just Bitcoin. If you're serious about saving money and you have low time preference, then Bitcoin is outperforms everything. If you take an average 4 or 5 year time period, it's just amazing. We all know that it's over 100% a year. People have different numbers, but try to beat that. Try to trade traditional assets. I mean, you have to take ridiculous leverage, and you just very likely to get wiped out. It's a lottery ticket to survive that kind of trading. It's not a lottery ticket to survive holding Bitcoin. You just hold it and wait.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that's the power of Bitcoin. You just hold and then let the people, the plant, gotta get the price they deserve. Yeah, that's the point of. I mean, like, yeah, since you like with your company, maybe you have any advice for the people who, yeah, they have a company and trying to put a balance sheet, because at the same time it's quite risky, right? If you don't have the proper risk management.
So you shouldn't put Bitcoin on your balance sheet if you know that you need to use the money soon. But for example, recently, I think it was just a few hours ago, or maybe it was 1 day ago, it was announced that NYDIG raised $1 billion at a $7 billion valuation to forward the adoption of Bitcoin. Now, if they have $1 billion, I bet you that as a Bitcoin company, they're going to put some of that in Bitcoin, because they cannot burn through $1 billion in 1 year time. It's going to take them time to use that money. So the portion that they are not going to use for the next 2-3 years, they're probably going to put in Bitcoin. So I would guess maybe they put 2/3 or 3/4 into Bitcoin, and the rest they keep in cash. And then every year they take portion of their Bitcoin, convert into cash to have like a stable cash. Other companies that could consider having Bitcoin on the balance sheet are profitable companies. So if you're already making money, like MicroStrategy is a profitable company, and it has predictable revenues. So it's a software as a service business. In part, they also have a legacy software business, but they have very stable revenues. So they actually know how much they're going to get in. And then on top of that, they're getting more sales. So anything that is extra from their profit, they can just set aside. Their revenue is around 500 million a year, and their profit is around 150 million a year, or free cash flow is 150 million a year. So that's money that they can DCA every month. They can just put part of that into Bitcoin. I think that's the two kind of companies that could do it. Anybody that's running on you raise money, you have enough money for a year or two, and your investors aren't very Bitcoin maximalists, I think you'd do better to not be too exposed to the price swings of Bitcoin. Then you get kicked out of your company if you happen to hit a tough patch of Bitcoin going down for a year or 1.5 years. Yeah, it could happen.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, it depends on restaurants and it depends on your time horizon. I think, yeah, that's the when company start to put the balance sheet, Bitcoin as the balance sheet. Yeah, that's yeah.
For me, I'm investor in my own company, so
yes.
I can negotiate with myself.
Yes.
Yeah, I as the investor, Lucas, can say no. I want to keep my money in Bitcoin. Yeah, until further notice. I can put in more money into the company later, and I just want you to hold it in cash because otherwise I want to hold it in Bitcoin. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, or I put in a little bit and then I let it grow. But right now I'm just using the Bitcoin in my startup as a test. Yeah. So I set up a exchange account, and I also I'm paying in Bitcoin just to see how it works. Yes, accounting wise, how my employees handle it, how the conversation is. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much what your company, right? I mean, like, yeah, I mean, when it comes, when you have a public company, maybe it's hard, right, to do things like that because you have shareholders that maybe you don't agree with you, who have more shares than you. I think, yeah, it's kind of hard to negotiate. But right now is a private company, and you can do whatever you like. Yeah, and there's pros and cons in that because because you have control of money, but in public company you have a bigger scale and you have your company elsewhere. I mean, yeah, it's
I think the really important factor, the distinguishing factor is if you have control in your business or not. So Michael Saylor can do whatever he wants because he controls the voting in his company.
Yes.
So nobody can tell him what to do because he puts in his board. Yes, he can fire his board whenever he wants. The board hires the CEO. Yes, so because he has full control of the voting, he chooses his board, he chooses his CEO. So his board cannot fire him because he would fire the board. And similarly, with a private company that's not public stock exchange, you often have the situation where the founders or the founder has majority vote in the company, and the investors don't have special voting rights. Yeah, so they can't vote.
Since you mentioned mandate, do you think that El Salvador is yeah, some people say if there's a pros and cons for RSC coins such as Vitalik Buterin that say that mandate for the Bitcoin as a legal tender is a part of totalitarianism. Do you think it's the case or not? I mean, because yeah, we at some point we need to adopt Bitcoin, right? And by adopting Bitcoin, you need to have some people who have legal tender, right? I mean, what do you think about it?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I never thought about legal tender laws until we were organizing the 7th of September 24 non-stop space, where actually Knut Svanholm seems to have thought about it a lot. And he made it clear that we should not celebrate Bitcoin legal tender law because actually legal tender laws in themselves are problematic, and we would just celebrate the adoption of Bitcoin on the 7th of September. That Bitcoin is being adopted, it's being rolled out in a country, great. But we're living in a world where most countries have legal tender laws. So they're mandating the use of certain currency for exchanges. For example, Vietnam, where I am at, it's illegal to use any other currency for transactions other than Vietnam dong. I think Indonesia, where you are, is the same. You can only use Indonesian rupiah to make transactions. So in a setting like that, I think that it may be necessary to maybe mandate to create a balance between the existing legal tender and if you want to implement Bitcoin as a parallel legal tender, like they did in El Salvador. There's a lot of people saying that, oh no, Bitcoin should have just been adopted in El Salvador in an organic manner. Nayib Bukele is overstepping, but they already have US dollar as the legal tender. So I have the experience from the e-signature business where the Swedish government adopted a stance about signing documents electronically that they're going to be hands off. They're going to let the market take care of it, and it's just going to happen organically. And actually, that made the process, I think, a decade or two slower than it could have been if the Swedish government would have said, okay, for any government agency, we're all going to use electronic signing, all of us, yes? And that way, they wouldn't necessarily have to mandate all contracts electronically in Sweden, but they could do it themselves. And that way, making it clear to the market that it's okay, that it is legally admissible. You're not going to get in trouble for using for signing documents electronically. And I think similarly with legal tender law, you're simplifying that question. People are not taking that technical risk, and also the investment that El Salvador was able to make as a country into the infrastructure maybe was easier by the adoption of Bitcoin as legal tender. So I think from a purely, say, libertarian perspective, yes, you could say it's bad. But on the other hand, if you're thinking about Bitcoin helping people in the most efficient way possible, we're living in reality, and there's different parameters to that reality. And it's always easy to look at the decision maker, the CEO of a company, and say, oh, they should have done that, you should have done this. And it's very hard to know what's going on in the background. Yes, what are the realities that this leader is actually facing? And Nayib Bukele, just before that 1 hour spontaneous Twitter space with 23,000 people, where he announced that they were going to make a Bitcoin legal tender, and where they passed the law in parliament at the end of that Twitter space, he was actually in a call with IMF. He was delayed jumping into the Twitter space because the IMF was calling him midnight El Salvador time. Yes. Why is the IMF calling the president of a country midnight, the president's time, bothering him at bedtime? Well, they were panicking. They absolutely didn't want him to do it, okay? Now, he was adamant that he would also sign the law before he went to bed, and the IMF was begging him to wait to implement the law until Thursday, when he was having a meeting with the IMF scheduled. Yes, I think this law was passed on a Monday or a Tuesday. And I think it was his brother that was saying this before the president came into the Twitter space. Okay, so what is the reality that Nayib is managing here? Well, so I think the reason why they rushed it through was purely game theoretical. Make it impossible for the IMF to force him to not do it. So if he had already done it, they couldn't punish him for doing it if he would do it. Yes, they also couldn't say, if you believe in that they're doing economic policy in not as nice ways, they wouldn't be able to kind of remove him in one way or another from power before he was able to pass the law. Yeah, so possibly the law was instrumental for him to even be able to move this forward without getting overwhelmed by pressure from international institutions. And we see this after the law was passed and after Bitcoin was rolled out. We see increasing pressure coming from the IMF and the World Bank. They don't like this. They downgraded El Salvador as a country. Their credit rating became worse, despite actually it being the country in the world, I think, that had the highest growth rate this year, 10% growth. Yes. So there's a lot of things going on in the background that we don't know. And as a Bitcoiner, I'm just very thankful that we have such an amazing advocate as Nayib Bukele. At the moment, people are afraid that he's going to become a despot. He's trolling people, putting it in his Twitter profile, despot Nayib Bukele, but or CEO of El Salvador. But so far, he seems to have been managed this in a very skillful way. He's trolling international politics. And I also think there may be another aspect to this. I believe in that the US is likely going to make Bitcoin into legal tender or into a parallel world reserve currency to the US dollar. Because of the Triffin's dilemma, which we can't dig into, I think, right now, because we're wrapping up the conversation, but because of the Triffin's dilemma says that if you have a world reserve currency, you cannot go on forever. At some point, it will become economically unfeasible to continue having the legal tender, so to have the reserve currency. So the US is pretty much at that point. The US has 400% debt to GDP, 150% is visible in actual debt, 250% or something like that is unfunded liabilities, pensions, and these kind of things. And they need to hand over the reserve currency status to some nation. Yes? Is it China? Is it the EU? Is it a basket of currencies? Because it will become increasingly difficult for them to keep it. And they're already starting to lose trust. So if they make it as a basket of currencies, the new world reserve currency is a basket of currencies, the SDR. Well, it's likely that China, for example, is going to bail whenever they can. So from a game theoretical perspective, if I was the US, I'm not sure I would think that was a good option. But if you just hand over the world reserve currency status to Bitcoin, nobody is in control. Beautiful. And then you integrate your whole economy. And you're first to do it. Are you going to benefit? I think you're going to benefit. And now, El Salvador could be seen from a perspective of as a pilot, yes? And from that perspective, having a legal tender law is possibly also a required part of the pilot. How would it work if a country goes all in, dollar and Bitcoin? Well, you have the perfect pilot here. It's close to the US. US can shut it down whenever they want. Yeah, it's a small country. It's not that relevant. If Mexico was doing it, maybe it was a bigger risk to test it out. I think that this pilot in El Salvador may be endorsed from the highest levels of government in the US to see, is this going to play out the way we hope? Yes. So it's a lifeboat for the US to continue be able to kind of run world economic use their power, their economic power to control things in the world. And Bitcoin happens to be the best tool for them to do that. So that was a long-winded answer to your legal tender question, but yeah.
Yeah, I think that's your point of view. Yeah, I think it's right. People gonna choose Bitcoin because it's voluntarily. There's no force in Bitcoin. You can do whatever you like, and you can get out whatever you like. And yeah, as long as it personally get tender, I think yeah, we have to respect that, regardless of the pros and cons. Yeah, I think yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah. Before I like end this interview right now.
I mean, I think
Sorry.
no. So just rehashing, it's just a technology. Different actors will use it differently. Me as a private person will use it differently than maybe a government, or me as the I will use it for my company in a different way. Everybody will use it in different ways, and it's going to be all kinds of flavors. So there's not one right way to use it, because people use it in many ways, and
Yeah.
that's beauty. It's permissionless. You can choose to use it the way you want, and countries will choose to relate to it the way they want.
Yes, that's exactly my point. Yeah, about Bitcoin is being freedom, and freedom is both goods and bads, and pros and cons. Yeah, that's all the technology is all about. Yeah, I understand the point of view. I mean, like, yeah, since 1 hour already, maybe before I end in this interview, do you have any Bitcoin plus prediction? It's just for fun, financial advice. You can say whatever you like. I mean, like, do you have any specific Bitcoin plus prediction for maybe like 2 more years, or yeah?
So I have a framework that I use, which is four different ways of looking at Bitcoin, and it's a longer answer. So I'm maybe not going to dive into it now. I think minimum, based on that framework that I'm using, minimum 5x from current price.
Yeah, 5x, right?
Yes.
Yes, yeah, maybe yeah, it's a wait and see. But the models try to like break at the moment. But yeah, as long as you have long-term coverage, maybe the other models like stock to flow and lengthening cycle or something like that will be come to fruition, and then the only time will tell.
Yeah, I have no idea about these models. So my models are based on Metcalfe's law, how networks grow exponentially and the value of networks grow exponentially, or comparing it to the market cap of gold and Bitcoin likely replacing store of value, or Bitcoin as a remittance network and replacing other remittance networks in place, and what the value should be of that. And also defunding part of the bond market and becoming part of the holding part of that value. So these are the four parameters that I use to just look at a very loose as benchmark for a minimum price. So from all these perspectives, I think 5x is very reasonable.
Yes.
Minimum.
Yeah, I think as long as you have a time preference, long time preference, I think 5x is not opium, right? It's just the way it is, and the way the math works, right? Yeah, and stuff.
In 4 years, yes,
if
you look at 20 or 30 years, it's much more, of course.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I mean, that's it for today, guys. I will leave in the description about the Twitter space. So guys, you can check it out. Thank you for your time, Lucas. Sorry for the quite unstable connection again. And have a good time. And thanks for having you here. Yeah.
Thank you, Iman, for organizing this. And super excited to meet you guys on the 3rd of January and learn about Indonesia in depth.
Yes, yeah, maybe we can have the part two of the conversation, maybe at 100K or 200K. Yeah, maybe we can have this conversation again. Yeah, for part two. Yeah, stay tuned, guys, for part two, and leave a like and subscribe to our channel. Yeah.